raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give involving this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. I do. Thank you. Go to the witness stand.
Ms. Taylor, would you state your name for the record, please?
Yes, Dr. Erin Barnhart.
And Dr. Barnhart, where are you currently employed?
I am currently the Chief Medical Examiner for Galveston County in Galveston, Texas.
And where were you employed on December the 6th of 2014, and specifically December the 8th of 2014?
At that time, I was Deputy Chief Medical Examiner for the state of Mississippi.
And can you tell the jury the benefit of your education in regards to forensic pathology?
Of course. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in biology from Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas. I then attended medical school at University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston, Texas, and received a medical doctorate. I then completed residencies in anatomic and clinical pathology at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. I then completed a fellowship in forensic pathology at Miami-Dade County Medical Examiner's Office in Miami, Florida. I then returned to the University of Texas Medical Branch to complete a second fellowship in surgical pathology. Subsequent to that, I became board certified in anatomic pathology, clinical pathology, and forensic pathology.
And in the field of forensic pathology, based on your educational background and work experience that you testified to, have you been tendered on numerous occasions as an expert witness in state courts in Mississippi?
Yes, and in Texas as well.
Have you been accepted as an expert in that field?
Yes,
Have you also been accepted here in Panola County in that same field?
I have.
Your Honor, at this time, I would offer Dr. Erin Barnhart as an expert in the field of forensic pathology.
All right, counsel wish to voir dire Dr. Barnhart on her qualifications? No, sir. All right, the court would accept Dr. Barnhart as an expert in the field of forensic pathology.
Dr. Barnhart, what does a forensic pathologist do?
So the study of pathology generally is the study of the basis of disease. Forensic pathology as a subspecialty is charged specifically with the determination of the cause and manner of death, and the primary way that we accomplish that is through the performance of an autopsy examination.
And would you describe for the jury what an autopsy examination is and how it's conducted?
Yes. So an autopsy examination is a scientific examination performed on a deceased person, wherein we conduct both external examinations looking for identifying characteristics, hair color, eye color, skin color, any identifying features like tattoos and scars. We, of course, look for injuries. And then after the external examination, we perform an internal examination where the internal organs are removed and examined for, of course, injury, but also natural disease as well.
And did you, on December the 8th of 2014, did you conduct an examination on the body of Jessica Chambers?
I did.
And was that examination conducted as you just previously described?
It was.
And were you able to produce a cause and manner of death for Jessica Chambers?
I was.
And as part of your autopsy, do you prepare a report that is turned over to law enforcement officials and ultimately our office and the defense team for this trial?
I do, yes.
And does that report include your findings?
It does.
Does it include toxicology?
It does, yes.
You may.
Dr. Barnhart, I'm going to hand you an 11-page document to staple. Can you describe and identify that document for me?
Yes, this is a copy of my autopsy report on Jessica Chambers. And attached to the back of it is the toxicology report.
And is that the autopsy that was conducted on December the 8th, 2014?
It is.
Your Honor, I would offer Dr. Barnhart's report as an exhibit to this witness's testimony.
Any objection? No, Your Honor. All right, be marked and admitted. 20. Thank you.
Dr. Barnhart, you just previously stated that you began your autopsy examination with an external examination. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would you describe the external examination that was conducted on Jessica Chambers?
Yes. So the external examination was most notable for very widespread thermal injury or burns to the majority of her body.
What types of burns would you categorize those as?
She had a combination of second and third degree burns.
Were you able to determine her size?
Yes, she was quite petite, 64 inches and 104 pounds.
64 inches, what we commonly know as 5'4".
That's right.
Now, did you conduct an external examination of her genitalia area or female region?
Yes.
And let me ask you a question. Did you note or notice any evidence that she was on her menstrual cycle or her period?
I did not. The most obvious way that we're made aware of that is through some type of sanitary product. And it's possible that could have been removed, but no, I did not note any evidence of that.
In looking at her external examination, were there areas on her body that were spared? And explain for the jury what I mean by spared.
Yes, so she did have burns on the majority of her body. I measured it as 93% of her body was involved by burns. But she had a few areas that were spared or nearly normal, meaning they had intact, relatively healthy skin. Those areas were on her buttocks, on the upper backs of her thighs, and on the soles of her feet.
Based on those spared areas, do you have an expert opinion based on a reasonable degree of medical certainty on what position she would have been in when she burned?
I think, yes, I think the most likely scenario based on that pattern is that she was seated and that the buttocks and back of the thighs in contact with a chair was protected from the fire or flames, and same with the soles of her feet would have been flat on something.
Did you note anything else on her external review? Examination?
Not traumatically. She had a couple of tattoos, but otherwise appeared consistent with her reported age.
Once you finish your external examination, do you move to the internal examination?
Yes.
Were there any evidence of injury noted on the internal examination?
Yes, there was evidence of injury from the fire in her airways, what we call the larynx and trachea. But otherwise, there was no evidence of any natural disease in her internal organs.
So outside of the injury to her airways, was she perfectly healthy otherwise?
Yes.
During the course of conducting an autopsy, do you also take photographs to document these injuries?
We do.
Did you do that in this case?
Yes.
Dr. Barnhart, I'm going to show you a board that contains two photographs. Can you describe and identify those photographs?
Yes, those are photographs of Jessica Chambers, the front of her body. The photo on the left depicts her.
Excuse me, Dr. Barnhart, before you describe,
Yes.
I'm going to let you do that for the jury. Are these in fact photographs taken from the December 8, 2014 autopsy of Jessica Chambers?
They are.
Your Honor, I would offer these two photographs or this board as an exhibit to this witness testimony.
Any objection? All right, to be marked and admitted.
Dr. Barnhart, sit down.
Yes, of course.
Dr. Barnhart, these two photographs that have just been admitted into evidence, can you describe those photographs and what you see?
Yes, so these are photographs of Jessica Chambers, of the front of her body, including her upper legs and one of her lower legs.
And does that also show some of the sparing that you have referred to in one of those pictures?
It does, and I actually should have mentioned earlier that I think I failed to mention earlier another area of sparing was her anterior pelvic area, which is here mostly covered by a towel just for modesty's sake.
Is it common to see sparing in that pelvic area?
If someone is seated, yes.
I'm going to ask you, and certainly Dr. William Hickerson is the burn doctor, but these areas, me not being a medical expert, when I first looked at those areas, it appears to be normal skin color, maybe slightly tan skin color. I believe I was wrong in my assessment. Am I correct?
These, referring to these areas?
Yeah, and I say normal skin. It looks like there's not a lot of injury there. Was I wrong in my assessment?
Yes. So these areas here that are dark yellow are actually more severe burns than the red and pink areas. They are areas where the burn is so deep that that tissue has basically been turned to, has become like leather.
Dr. Barnhart, I'm going to show you a second board with 3 photographs. Can you describe and identify these photographs for the jury?
Yes, these are also photographs taken at the time of autopsy.
On December 8th, 2014.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask this board to be marked and received as an exhibit.
Any objection? Be marked and admitted.
Dr. Barnhart, these are 3 additional photographs of the body of Jessica Chambers. Can you describe what you see in those photographs?
Yes, so this is the back of her head here. She had a good deal of singed or burned scalp hair. And similar to what we saw in the front of her body, she has areas of 2nd-degree burns and 3rd-degree burns, which is the yellowish, leathery type condition of the skin on her back. When I talked about the areas of sparing or unaffected areas, you can see that here on her buttocks and upper thighs, here similarly as well, and then the burns of the base of the lower legs.
Dr. Barnhart, if you'll just remain standing there, can you describe the condition of her face when she was presented to you?
Yes, her face was entirely involved, or virtually entirely involved by burns and thermal injury.
Dr. Barnhart, I'm going to show you a photograph. Can you describe this, can you identify this photograph?
This is a photograph of Jessica's face taken at the time of autopsy.
Your Honor, I would offer this photograph as an exhibit to this witness's testimony.
Any objection? All right, I'm marked and admitted.
Dr. Barnhart, is this the face that you just described?
It is.
And would you please describe the injuries that you noted to the face?
Yes, so all of this pink and red area is thermal injury or burns. I think you can see better here the partial absence of scalp hair, which is where it's been burned away. There is soot visible in her nostrils and on her tongue, and there are areas of peeling skin predominantly around her mouth.
And does her tongue appear to be a normal size?
It appears to be swollen.
And is this the way Jessica Chambers was presented to you on December the 8th of 2014?
Yes, it is.
And finally, Dr. Barnhart, you actually mentioned her having what you call soot in her airway. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Describe for the jury what you mean by having soot in her airway.
So in fire victims, we will find what we call soot and carbonaceous debris. It's basically ash, blackish gray material that is coating or partially coating the inside of the airway.
And how are you able to visibly view that, what you just described?
We open the airway.
And how do you open the airway?
Well, we open it vertically with a pair of scissors in order to open it and look at the mucosal surfaces. And that's not something we do only in burn cases. We do that in all of our examinations.
Did you in fact open the airway of Jessica Chambers on December the 8th of 2014?
Yes, I did.
And did you take a photograph of her airway?
Yes.
Can you identify this photograph for me that I'm showing you now?
Yes, that's a picture of her opened airway, including the larynx, trachea, vocal cords.
Your Honor, I would offer this photograph as an exhibit to this witness's testimony.
Any objection? Be marked and admitted.
Dr. Barnhart, I'm going to move out of your way. Can you describe this photograph for the jury?
Sure. It's a little hard to get oriented here, but in a living person, one's tongue would be up here. It's absent in this picture. This is the epiglottis here, which is positioned deep in the back of your mouth to protect your airway. The vocal cords are here, and then this is your larynx and trachea, which lead down, would lead down on either side to your lungs.
And is there an obvious debris or soot around the vocal cords?
Yes, and within the larynx and trachea.
All throughout?
Yes.
And do you see any discoloration of a normal airway in this particular photograph?
Yes, so the mucosa or thin tissue covering of the larynx and trachea is what I would describe as hyperemic, which means too red, generally associated with inflammation.
Could it also be associated with a heat injury?
Yes, I'm sorry, I should clarify. And one of the things that would cause that inflammation and hyperemia would be thermal injury or the inhalation of very hot air and gases.
And in a case where somebody inhaled hot air and gases, would you commonly find the debris or the soot that you pointed to just now?
Yes, that's what I would expect to find.
Dr. Barnhart, you may have a seat. And Dr. Barnhart, in conducting an autopsy, do you come up with a conclusion or an expert opinion as to how this person died to a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Yes.
And are there two findings that you normally convey in your expert report?
Meaning cause and manner of death?
Correct.
Yes.
And in Jessica Chambers' case, did you determine the cause of her death?
Yes, the cause of her death was soot and smoke inhalation and thermal injuries.
And did you determine a manner of death?
Yes, the manner of death is homicide.
Your Honor, I tender the witness.
Cross?
Good afternoon, Dr. Barnhart.
Good afternoon.
Just a few questions for you this afternoon. If you will, I'd like to direct your attention to your report. Do you still have it there?
I do.
Okay. And let's just go through it a bit, kind of section by section, so I can stay organized and not confuse you. Autopsy was done very next day.
That's correct.
Okay. And there's an indication in this external examination that the oral mucosa is unremarkable. That would mean what?
That would mean that it was not sloughed off.
Say that, I'm sorry?
Not sloughed off or not peeling.
Okay. And so the oral mucosa would be what exactly?
The inside of the mouth.
Okay. So it was not fluffed off, is that what you said?
Sloughed off or peeling, meaning basically the insides of her cheeks
Okay.
were intact.
Were intact, okay. And insides of her cheeks were intact. Okay.
Yes.
And then as we go further, you talked a little bit just about that she had tattoos. Those would have been on the right and left groin, is that?
Yes, that's what I've noted here.
Yes. And also with regard to the external genitalia, what does your report indicate about that?
That they were atraumatic.
Okay. And atraumatic would mean that there's an absence of having trauma or anything like that, correct?
Right, no injuries.
No injuries. And that was basically the portion of your report that deals with the external examination.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, as we move down just a little bit more, and looking at the internal examination, I believe your report indicates that her diaphragm was intact.
That's correct.
Okay. Diaphragm deals to some degree with breathing.
Well, the diaphragm is a muscular membrane that is involved in breathing. It separates the organs of the chest from the organs of the abdomen.
And it goes on further, your report, to talk about the soft tissues of the neck would be atraumatic.
Correct.
And that also means no injuries or absence of injury, correct?
Correct.
The larynx and trachea, is that with breathing also?
So the larynx and the trachea are the airways that we looked at the photograph of earlier.
Okay. And there's an indication that both of those, the larynx and the trachea, are unobstructed, correct?
Yes.
And lined by hyperemic
Yes.
mucosa.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And if you will, just a bit further down, let me inquire about, it says bronchovascular tree is normal in configuration.
Yes.
Okay, and that would mean?
That the structure of the lungs was normal.
Okay. And just a little bit further, the tongue itself, Miss Jessica's tongue, would have been atraumatic, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and again, just atraumatic means absence of injury.
Yes, and specifically we're referring to muscular injury like contusions, for example.
Yes. Okay. Now, if you will, I know you spoke about obviously you have no information about, no personal knowledge about statements or anything like that that Ms. Jessica made prior to your autopsy.
No.
Okay. Also, You spoke that you may have had an opinion about the most likely position that she was in would have been in a sitting position,
Yes.
correct? You can't say that with 100% certainty, though, can you?
No.
Okay. And there were possibly other positions that she could have been in a standing position, correct?
Any position in which the skin of her buttocks, the backs of her thighs, her anterior groin or genitals and soles of her feet were protected, I guess that would be possible.
Yes. As far as, let me just clarify as to, there were burns on the back, on her back, and on the back of her legs. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
as well as the front of her legs.
As well as the front, correct. And then if you will just go to, I think it may be page 4 of your report. Okay. Your opinion also involved the fact that there were no blunt force injuries, correct?
Yes,
And that the toxicology revealed that there was marijuana, nicotine, and opioid analgesics in postmortem blood samples.
that's correct.
Okay. And so basically a toxicology was found in these different types of narcotics or drugs were found in her system. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Course indulgence just momentarily.
All right, redirect.
Dr. Barnhart, you and I went over the items that were found in Jessica Chambers' system in the toxicology report, am I correct?
Yes,
And we agree there was marijuana found in her system.
yes,
Nicotine, indicative of cigarettes, something of that nature.
yes.
All of the rest of these, I'm going to ETO, MIDATE, lidocaine, morphine, fentanyl, norfentanyl. What types of substance are those?
Those are drugs that would have been administered at the hospital.
This jury has your report. This jury is going to go back in the jury room with your report, so I want to make sure they understand something clearly, okay?
Okay.
This section where it says the tongue is atraumatic, that is part of the internal examination, correct?
Yes, and that is, that conclusion is reached by actually cutting through the tissue of the tongue and looking for contusions.
Will you step down for one more second?
Sure.
This is an external photograph of the face of Jessica Chambers, is that correct?
Yes.
And is there an obvious injury to her tongue?
Yes, so, and I'll clarify this. So the external findings related to the tongue and the nose or nostrils are that there is soot in the airways, meaning soot in her nostrils, soot on her tongue. But the muscular tissue of the tongue itself was not injured. That's important in some cases. If you suspect somebody might have had a seizure, for example, and bitten their tongue, that's why that's mentioned in the report.
And how would you categorize the size of her tongue?
It is edematous or swollen.
Actually, Your Honor, I have no further questions from Dr. Barnhart. I would ask that she be finally released.
All right, Dr. Barnhart, you're fine. Excuse ma'am. Thank you. Let me call your next witness.
Tyler Mills.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give involving this case is the truth and whole truth and nothing truth, so help you God. Thank you.
Would you state your name for me?
Tyler Mills,
Mr. Mills, where are you currently employed?
Panola County Sheriff's Department.
In what capacity are you with the Sheriff's Department today?
I'm an investigator.
And on December the 6th of 2014, were you also employed by the Panola County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, sir.
In what capacity?
I was a narcotics agent.
And are you familiar with the area of Courtland, Mississippi?
Yes, sir, I am.
Is that actually your home?
Yes, sir.
And do you know people in Courtland, Mississippi?
Yes, sir.
Were you aware on December 6, 2014 of the murder of Jessica Chambers?
Yes, sir.
2 days later, on December the 8th of 2014, did somebody contact you from Courtland?
Yes, sir.
And what were you contacted about?
Some keys
Where were the keys located?
on Main Street in Courtland.
And did you proceed to Main Street in Courtland regarding some keys?
Yes, sir.
Were you able to determine, first of all, when you arrived, who was there?
I arrived at a house at 124 Main Street in Courtland. Jerry Lee King, Mary Tyner, and their young daughter was at the house.
What do you mean, young daughter?
And a year. She was inside of a baby stroller.
And had someone picked up a set of keys there on Main Street?
Yes, sir.
Who was that individual?
Jerry Lee King.
Did they show you the set of keys?
Yes, sir.
Was there an identifying insignia on those keys pertinent to the Jessica Chambers case?
Yes, sir.
What was that insignia?
It was like a Benz Auto and Diesel keychain tag on side the keys.
Who was Ben?
Ben Chambers is Jessica Chambers' father.
And did the keys appear to be that of a male or female variety?
Female.
Did you in fact collect the keys from 124 Main Street?
Yes, sir.
Did you actually place them in a paper bag or tagged evidence bag?
Yes, sir.
May I approach?
You may.
Tyler, I'm going to show you a bag. Can you describe and identify this item?
This is one of the evidence bags that we use at the Sheriff's Department. It has the case number, who collected it, badge number, time, and the description and where it was located at.
Can you look inside that bag and tell me what's inside that bag?
It's a set of keys with a green Benz Auto and Diesel repair key tag and a pink, like a Germex hand sanitizer type bottle attached to it.
And were those the keys that you collected from 124 Main Street on this day?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would offer this item as an exhibit to this witness testimony is properly authenticated. It's been previously identified.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, we would object based upon the chain of custody.
Based on what, sir?
Based upon the chain of custody of that item and the previous objection that we pointed out when we objected to them being identified as an exhibit or for identification, Your Honor.
All right. Objection noted, it'll be overruled, they'll be marked and admitted.
Those keys have already been identified by Lisa Chambers. During your investigation, were you able to determine where those keys were located?
Yes, sir.
And did you go to that? Where was that area? Where was that area in regards to Jerry King's home?
About 2 houses down.
And did you go to that area and take photographs where the keys were located?
Yes, sir.
Mills, I'm going to show you a Fred, of 5 photographs, can you describe and identify these photographs?
Yes, sir.
Actually, can you identify these photographs?
Yes, sir. Those are the photographs that I took on December 8th, 2014.
Is this where the keys, where you determined the keys were located?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would offer this board with 5 photographs as evidence of this testimony.
Same objection, and additionally, we would object to the foundation of those photographs.
All right. This is going to be part of the jury's field trip, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. I'll allow it. It can be marked as an exhibit. Just for the record, the keys that were introduced, they were previously marked for ID as Exhibit 2. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. They've now been received into evidence. All right, so these photos are going to be a new exhibit number. What's 25? All right. Maybe marked and admitted.
Your Honor, let's give this a second.
Yes.
Investigator Mills, who found these keys?
Jerry Lee King?
And did he point you to exactly where he found them?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do with the keys in order to photograph the scene?
Placed them in the approximate location where he told me they were at.
So Mr. King showed you where he found them.
Yes, sir.
You placed them there and you took photographs.
Yes, sir.
Now, this road right here, just so we don't confuse the jury, they're going to see this. They're going to see Main Street in Courtland, okay?
Yes, sir.
And show them where Main Street is.
This
on
is
map.
this is Main Street.
And each of these photographs depict the same thing, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Are they from differing views? I say different angles.
They're different distances. Yes, sir.
Okay. Going from closest at bottom right to farthest at top left.
Yes, sir.
And is this all the same area that the jury is going to be able to see today or tomorrow when they go on the field trip?
Yes, sir.
What side of Main Street were those keys located?
I'm gonna say it's the west side.
I'm sorry, what side of the road? North or south?
It's gonna be north.
Okay.
Yes, north side.
And describe the area or that the keys were located in.
It's like a small ditch on the side of the road that's in the front yard of the house.
Okay, there's a structure there.
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the area where Jessica Chambers was set on fire?
Yes, I know what area you're talking about.
And where were the keys located in connection to that area on Heron Road?
2, maybe 3/10 of a mile away from that area,
Back toward what?
back towards Courtland.
And from Heron Road proceeding into the middle of Courtland, is that the route you would take?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I tender the witness.
All right. Cross.
Yes, Your Honor.
Approach the witness, Your Honor. You may.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mills.
Afternoon, sir. How are you?
Can, let me ask you a few questions about this photograph here, if you will.
Okay.
Can you see it from where you are?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury which one of those pictures actually depict where you found the keys.
None of them.
None of them.
No, sir.
Why is that?
I really can't tell you why.
Okay, you didn't actually find the keys, did you?
No, sir.
Okay, where were the keys when you actually viewed them?
At 124 Main Street.
And what's that 124 Main Street?
Jerry Lee King. It was Jerry Lee King and Mary Tyner's house.
Okay, so it was at a house.
Yes, sir.
That house is not depicted in any of those photographs, is it?
No, sir.
Okay. Explain to the jury, well, let me digress. Mr. Mills, you are employed by the Panola County Sheriff's Department.
Yes, sir.
And in what capacity?
I'm an investigator.
And what do you typically investigate?
I investigate the criminal investigations now.
Certainly. When you were being questioned by the district attorney, you indicated that you did something with narcotics. Did I misunderstand your?
No, sir. At that time, I was a narcotics officer for the
Okay.
county.
So back during the time of December 6, 2014, when you were taking these pictures, you were assigned to narcotics.
Yes, sir.
And what were your duties with narcotics?
Just work all narcotics cases within the county.
Is that how you came to know Mr. King?
I knew Mr. King before that.
Okay. How did you know Mr. King?
I knew Mr. King. I started working for the Sheriff's Department in 2006, and Mr. King was a residency of Courtland at that time, and I dealt with him before narcotics.
Okay. You dealt with him before in narcotics?
No, sir. I dealt with him before I started at narcotics.
Okay. You mentioned the name Mary King. Mary Tyner, I believe?
Mary Tyner, yes, sir.
She lived at that address as well, right?
Yes, sir.
In fact, Miss Tyner is the one who actually called you. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Miss Tyner was a confidential informant of yours. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
She was someone that you had dealings with when you were investigating narcotics cases.
Yes, sir.
She called you and told you that Mr. King had found a set of keys.
Yes, sir.
Correct? And then you responded to that call.
Yes, sir.
So when you sit here and tell this jury about these keys, you don't actually know where they were found, do you?
No, sir.
You based your information solely on what Mr. King told you.
Yes, sir.
Now, you talked about taking pictures of these photographs, and that's actually Heron Road.
No, sir. That's Main Street.
That's Main Street.
Yes.
That would be headed in the general direction of Heron Road.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when you received the call from Ms. Tyner, you actually were where?
I was at the Sheriff's Department
You're at the Sheriff's Department. And how did Ms. Tyner call you?
on my cell phone.
Okay, so Ms. Tyner actually had your cell phone.
Yes, sir.
She called your cell phone, and she indicated what?
They had found a set of keys on the side of the road on Main Street.
Did she tell you how she thought those keys were significant?
She thought they were Jessica Chambers keys because the Benz auto and diesel tag on them.
Okay, so it was actually Ms. Tyner who thought that those keys may belong to Jessica Chambers.
Yes, sir.
It wasn't Mr. King.
Mr. King might have thought about them too, but I don't know.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Where were the keys actually located when you arrived at 124?
On the hood of a car, on top of a paper towel.
Okay, so you actually took the key, or when you first laid eyes on these keys, they were on the hood of a car.
Yes, sir.
Whose car?
I don't remember whose car it was.
Okay, was it at 124?
Yes, sir.
Was it a car that Mr. King drove?
He could have drove, I'm not sure.
So you don't even know who the car belongs to,
I
right?
didn't know whose car it was.
Understood. You did not take a picture of the keys as they were when they were actually presented to you.
No,
Is
sir.
that fair?
Yes, sir.
Why not?
I don't know.
Okay. So, Mr. King alleges that he found these keys on the side of the road.
Yes, sir.
And tell the jury what happens after that.
I asked him where he believed he found them at, and he showed me the approximate location of them.
How far? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'm
Please
sorry.
continue. I interrupted you.
Approximate location was, and that's where you see the pictures are at.
Okay. How far would that location have been from 124?
I'm gonna say probably 45, 50 yards maybe. It's not far at all. It's 2 houses down.
2 houses down. Do you
Yes.
recall what the weather was like that day?
Sunny.
Sunny.
And it's probably cool since it was December.
It was December the 8th, 2014,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes.
December, cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's cool.
Do you recall how you were dressed?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you recall if you had on a coat or not?
No, sir.
Now, you left 124,
Yes, sir.
and you and Mr. King,
Yes, sir.
just the two of you,
Yes, sir.
you traveled from 124 to this location.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. King told you that I found these keys, which he says, or he thought, or who Mary thought belonged to Jessica Chambers at this location.
Yes, sir.
Why did you take those photographs?
Just so I could have an approximate location for the investigators to know where they were at,
Okay. I mean, and what's the purpose of that?
so they know where it's at.
Okay. But you didn't take a picture of where they were at. You took a picture based upon when someone else told you they were at.
Yes, sir.
So why those pictures and not the pictures on the hood?
Because it's easier for me to tell them it's at 124 Main Street than inside of a ditch on the side of the road.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your answer,
All
sir.
right. The 124 Main Street's the actual location. The pictures there are actually at a place that you can go right now and look and see it's right there. It's Hesens.
Your concern was to take these pictures to aid investigators.
Yes, sir.
Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Which investigators?
The investigators at the Sheriff's Department.
Okay. And would it not be helpful to their investigation to also tell them where the keys were when you originally laid eyes on them?
I did.
You did.
Yes, sir.
Did you put that in your report?
I don't know if I did or not.
Okay. Now, Mr. King, did he describe the circumstances under which he found these keys?
He said that he was walking down the street and saw the keys laying on the side right there and picked them up and was walking back to his house, and his daughter ended up playing with them, I believe. And then when he got up to the house is when Mary Tyner told him that what she thought with the keys, who the keys belonged to.
The daughter that was in the stroller at
Yes,
the
sir.
time?
Yes, sir.
So Mr. King informed you that he found some keys on the side of the road and his daughter was playing with them.
Yes, sir.
How long did she play with them?
I have no idea.
Okay. How long between the time when he alleges to have found those keys and the time am I saying her last name right, Tyner?
Yes, sir.
How long between when the keys were allegedly found and when you were called?
I don't know how long it was between the time they found them till I actually got the phone call.
As you sit here today, you can't tell this jury how long Mr. King actually had those keys in his possession, can you?
No, sir.
Okay? And you can't tell this jury where those keys actually came from, can you?
No, sir.
The only thing you can convey to this jury is that Mr. King called, or Ms. Tyner called you, and alleges that Mr. King found those keys on the side of the road. Isn't that true?
Yes, sir.
And he found those keys on the side of the road, but you don't have any knowledge to substantiate that, do you?
No, sir.
Okay. That's what the note. Yes, sir. Ms. Mills, you actually took a statement from Mr. King on that day. Would that be accurate?
Yes, I'm sure I did.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Can you take a look at that, Mr. Mills?
Yes, sir.
Do you need a minute to review it?
Yes, sir, if you don't mind.
Certainly.
Okay.
Is that the statement of Jerry King?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what's the date of that statement?
December 8th, 2014.
That would have been the date that you actually went out to 124,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Who wrote that statement?
I did.
You did?
Yes, sir.
So you wrote the statement for Mr. King?
Yes, sir.
Is there any reason why you did that?
Because he wanted me to.
Okay. Can Mr. King write?
I don't think not very well.
Okay. Can he read?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay, so he had you to write it though,
Yes, sir.
and you indicated in that statement that Mr. King, when he picked up those keys, he used a paper towel?
Yeah, he's got yes, he put a paper towel, he put them on a paper towel when he got them out of the stroller.
Okay. Were they on a paper towel when you found them?
Yes, sir.
And that would have been when they were on the back of this car?
On the front of the car, on the
The
hood.
front of the,
Yes, sir.
the hood of the car, I apologize. But Mr. King signed that statement,
Yes, sir.
but you actually wrote it.
Yes, sir.
And is there anything in that statement that would indicate that you wrote it?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
Says I give Agent Tyler Mills my permission to write this statement for me.
Okay. But now, that statement is based upon what you derived from your conversation with Mr. King,
That statement is based on what Jerry Lee King told me.
just like the location of these keys,
Yes.
right? May I retrieve this Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mills, you actually completed another report yourself in this case. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And may I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Mr. Mills, do you recall that report?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall the date of that report?
What day I wrote it?
Yes, sir.
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. Would it have been on the 8th as the report that you wrote out for Jerry King?
No, sir.
Okay. And you have no idea when you did that one?
No, sir, I really don't.
But now, that report is actually entitled Death Investigation.
Okay.
Okay. What was the purpose of this supplemental report, if you recall?
The supplement report, it's just my report. It's just that I just did it on a supplement report, letterhead.
Certainly. Were you instructed to complete that report by someone?
Yes, sir. They asked me to write a statement. Yes, sir.
Who was they?
Major Barry Thompson in the district attorney's office.
Okay. So you wrote that report at the instruction of Mr. Thompson in the DA's office?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me ask you, you're familiar with the area where Ms. Chambers and where this incident took place?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you in that area at any point on December 6, 2014?
On Main Street or Heron Road area?
On either?
Actually, I was on Main Street. I was at my parents' house when all this started.
Okay. And what time was that?
I got to my parents' house sometime after 8 o'clock.
After 8 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you, and your parents live
My
on,
parents live in Courtland.
on Herring Road or
No,
Main Street?
Off of Main Street on the side road.
Okay. And did you have an occasion to speak with Mr. King or with Mary on December 6, 2014?
I don't recall if I did or not.
Okay. I turn to the witness, Your Honor.
All right.
All right.
You ready?
Yes.
Mr. Mills, Investigator Mills, Mr. Peterson just asked you about a statement that was given by Jerry King.
Yes, sir.
And he read you parts of that, asked you about parts of those statement, correct?
Yes, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
This is the statement he just showed you he was referring to.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would ask that this statement be marked and received as an exhibit to this witness's testimony.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, be marked and admitted.
Investigator Mills,
Yes, sir.
starting with first sentence, would you read that statement for the jury who previously marked and received?
First sentence is, I give Agent Tyler Mills my permission to write this statement for me, and it is initial JK for Jerry King.
All right. I want you to read the rest of it, but slow down.
Okay. It says on 12/8/2014, I was walking my daughter down Main Street in Courtland, Mississippi. I saw a pink rope with a set of keys on it. I picked up the keys by the pink rope and saw a keychain that said Ben's Auto and Diesel Repair on it. I placed the keys in the bottom of the stroller and came back to the house. I had Mary Tyner call Agent Tyler Mills to come down to the house and get the keys. I grabbed a paper towel and picked the keys up out of the stroller and placed them on the hood of a car. The keys stayed there until Agent Mills came down and took them.
How was he walking his daughter?
And he was pushing her in a stroller.
And he saw those keys, saw the tag, and had who call you?
Mary Tyner?
And Mary Tyner called you because she had your cell phone number, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And he even went as far as to do what with the keys while they were there?
Placed them on the hood of a car in a paper towel.
And were they in that paper towel when you arrived?
Yes, sir.
Was he waiting for you as he said when you arrived?
Yes, sir.
Did Jerry King have to call you to come get those keys?
No, sir.
Your Honor, no further questions. I would ask that Investigator Mills be finally released.
All right, officer, you're finally released. You may return to the courtroom, return to duty, your choice, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. May I call your next witness?
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may.
Sheriff Macmurray.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give involving this case is the truth, the whole truth, but the truth, so help you God? Right.
Would you state your name, please?
Sheriff Flowers.
Ms. Flowers, are you a resident of Courtland?
Yes.
Were you a resident of Courtland on December the 6th of 2014?
Yes. Yes.
On December the 6th of 2014, did you go to a funeral?
I did.
And who passed away?
My aunt.
And this jury is not from Panola County, but we're going to try to tell them, where was that funeral located?
Antioch on Highway 35, right off of Highway 35 South.
And where, this jury is actually going to see your old residence. Where did you reside at that time?
When I left the funeral,
Now, where were you living during that time?
74 Main Street, Courtland.
And where is Antioch Church from 74 Main Street in Courtland?
It's not too far from 74 Main Street, maybe 6 or 7 miles.
Do you know which way?
You have to go down Highway 35 South.
Would that be out to the west? Just help you out. Do you know? If you don't, that's okay.
You know,
All right. When you left the church, where did you go? When you left the funeral, where did you go?
over my mom's house.
Okay. Did your mom live close to Antioch Church?
Yes.
And how long did you stay at your mom's house, do you think?
Not long enough to change the clothes, kids' clothes, and we left
Okay. Where did you go from there?
to a repast
And where was that repast held?
over my cousin's house, Michael Macmurray.
Okay. Now, this jury is actually going to see the roads here in a little while. What road does Michael McMurray live on?
I think that road is Carlisle's Road, right behind Gurley's store.
Yes, ma'am. Gurley's the same thing we call it M&M's?
Yes.
Okay. Who did you have with you at the repast at Michael McMurray's house?
I had 2 of my grandkids.
How old were they at the time?
One was 5, and the other maybe 1, about 1.5 years old.
And when you got to the repast, was it daylight or was it dark?
Daylight,
And this is in December.
right.
After it got dark, at some point, did you go back to your home?
Yes.
Why did you go back to your home?
It started to get a little cooler, and so the kids didn't have any coats. I left to go get their coats.
Okay. How would you leave Carlisle Road going to your home?
I would have to pass Gurley's store and take that right.
And what is that on? That's a main
on
road,
Highway
right?
51.
Okay.
And then I would have to take the next right on Main Street.
And that's Main Street, Courtland?
Right.
Okay. Is your house before or after the firehouse that we're going to see in Courtland? Do you have to go past the firehouse or was it before the firehouse?
You have to pass the firehouse.
And you're going up to 74 Main Street. Did you, in fact, turn in your driveway?
I did.
Which way do you have to turn to go in your driveway there?
We have to turn to the left.
While you were going to your home to get coats, did you see any emergency lights or emergency vehicles?
No.
When you turned left into your home, tell me what you did next.
We get out. I took the kids out, and we went inside, and I got the coats. We left, and we went back to Michael's house.
All right, to go back to Michael's house, you have to go back past the firehouse again.
Right.
Now tell me, where were the kids located in the vehicle?
They both was in the front seat.
And you were driving.
Right.
And what was in the seat right behind you?
Car seat.
And what was in the seat right behind the kids?
Nothing.
As you left your house and approached the firehouse, did you see anything?
I saw a person walking.
Okay. Let me back up. When you went to your house first, did you see anybody on the roadway?
No.
When you left your house and headed back to Michael McMurray's home, what did you see?
I saw a person walking.
And as you approached that person, how did they respond?
When I approached that person,
Sorry, did the person try to flag you down at all?
I think so.
You think so? Was the person by himself, by him or herself, or with somebody else?
The person was by himself.
It was a man?
It was a male.
And did you in fact stop at that person?
I did.
Why did you stop?
Because I thought it maybe was somebody related to me. Randre, I normally stop for Randre on that road. Randre, said, that's a cousin of mine.
So you had stopped for Randre before on that road.
I have.
Did this person approach your vehicle?
Yes.
What window did he approach your vehicle?
On the driver's side.
And what did you immediately notice when he approached your vehicle?
I didn't know him.
He wasn't who?
He wasn't Randre.
How was he different than Randre?
How was he different?
Excuse me, I'm not trying to confuse you. I'll move on. As you approach this person, you made contact with this individual,
Yes,
and you just told this jury you didn't know him.
right.
And did that individual say anything to you?
Well, he wanted to know which direction I was going. I told him I was going to Michael's house. I can't remember if he said he knew Michael or not, but he did ask me, could I drop him off on 51? And I asked him where he was trying to go. And he told me he was going to check, he heard his aunt's house had caught a fire. I said, who is your aunt? He said, Julie Chambers.
He said Julia Chambers was his aunt.
Yes, and Julie, I know Julie from doing my hair years ago.
He knew Julia's house had caught on fire.
Well, he said he heard her house had caught on fire.
And based on your knowledge of Julia, were you okay giving him a ride?
I was.
And did you allow him in your vehicle?
I did.
Now, the area where you picked this individual up, did you show that exact spot to the best of your knowledge to ATF investigator Scott Meadows and United States Attorney's Intelligence Analyst Paul Rowlett?
Yes, I did.
And did they ask you some questions about this individual?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury the benefit of how old you suspected this individual to be?
Early 20, maybe 19.
And was it a African American or a Caucasian male?
Yes, African American.
What type of build? Would you call him small, medium, or large?
Between small and medium.
And what about his hair? What about his head?
I couldn't see his hair. I mean, I think his head was covered.
And what type of shirt did he have on?
I don't remember.
Okay. Was he wearing a big coat?
No.
What type of voice did he have?
I can't describe his voice either, but I know it wasn't a deep voice.
And you didn't know this person, correct?
No.
At the time, the only thing you knew that he was Julia Chambers' nephew.
Right.
Did you, in fact, give him a ride up the hill?
Yes.
And where did you drop this individual off?
On Highway 51, across the street, not too far from Julia's house.
Right there at the entrance of Old Highway 51 and New Highway 51?
Right.
Did you point out that exact drop-off spot to investigators?
Yes.
Now, let me ask you a question. If he would have asked you to take him to Julia Chambers' driveway, would you have taken him to Julia Chambers' driveway?
I probably would have.
You liked her, right?
Right.
Once this individual got out of your car, well, let me ask, on the ride up, was there any conversation?
I don't remember a conversation.
Was it quiet?
I guess. I mean, I really can't remember that far back, but he wasn't talking.
Okay. While you were headed back to Michael Macmurray's house, and when you dropped this individual off, did you see any more emergency lights or sirens?
No.
Once you dropped the individual off at Old 51 and New 51, did you see which way he went?
No, I did not. I didn't pay any attention.
And did you go back to Michael Macmurray's, the Repast?
Yes.
And did you stay there for the majority of the night?
Yes.
Soon after that, did you tell anybody in your family that you had picked up a man on that night?
I spoke with my mother and my sister about it, but I can't really tell you how many days it were after that. It wasn't the same. Well, we found out about it. It was like a couple days later after the repair.
You found out about what?
About the burning of Jessica.
And after you found out, did one of them encourage you to come forward to law enforcement?
My sister did.
And you did not come forward to law enforcement, did you?
No.
And why didn't you come forward to law enforcement?
I couldn't remember the person, and it felt like it was irrelevant.
When law enforcement finally received your name in the middle part of this year, were you truthful with them when they came to talk to you?
Yes.
When you drove down to your house, you never saw any emergency lights.
No, I don't remember seeing any.
Do you know approximately what time that was when you went down to your home?
I would say about between 6 or 7. I'm not absolutely sure, between about 6. It wasn't later than 7 o'clock.
Was it dark outside?
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this. When you arrived back at the Repast, did you tell investigators about how long you stayed at the Repast before you went home that night?
Yes.
How long did you tell them you stayed there at the Repast?
I was there maybe 3 hours later.
About 3 hours later. And did you also tell investigators you arrived home around 11?
Between 10 and 11, right.
Between 10 and 11. Would you agree with me that 3 hours before 10 and 11 would be 7 to 8?
Right.
Your Honor, I tender the witness.
Cross. Question noted, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Flowers.
Good afternoon.
We've met before, is that correct?
Yes.
I think we talked about a week ago.
Right.
I want to kind of go back through some of your testimony here a little bit. Now, you met with some individuals from the district attorney's office, correct?
Right.
Do you recall those individuals?
Yes.
Okay, who were they?
Jay was one. I can't remember the names exactly,
Certainly.
but I do know him.
Tell me, how did you come to meet with them?
Tyrone called me first.
Okay, and who is Tyrone?
Tyrone Smith. He worked with Panola County Sheriff Department. They might know him as Darius Smith.
And what does Tyrone do with the sheriff's department?
He's one of the officers there.
And he's employed by the Panola County Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
How long is he a deputy or?
I'm not sure what's his title.
Okay. Is he one of these people that rides around in vehicles that has Panola County on the side?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how long Mr. Smith has been doing that?
No.
Now, you indicated Jay, I guess that would be the Assistant District Attorney, Mr. Hale, who was just questioning you?
Mm-hmm.
And you met with some other individuals?
Right.
Did you not? Do
I
you
did.
recall who those individuals were?
I don't know the names.
The name. Do you see any of them in the courtroom today?
The one guy, no, he's not in here. He's on the outside.
Do you remember a gentleman by the name of Rowlett? Paul Rowlett?
They did introduce their names to me, but I can't.
The gentleman sitting on the front row there in the light blue shirt, did you meet with
I
him?
remember him.
You did meet with him?
I did.
Did that meeting also take place at the district attorney's office?
Right.
How many times did you meet with him?
A couple times.
And were both meetings at the district attorney's office?
Right.
Okay. You actually mentioned Tyrone Smith.
Right.
Now, how did Mr. Smith orchestrate this meeting?
He called me because they could not contact. They didn't know how to get in contact with me, but Tyrone did.
Okay. And do you know how your name came about?
No, I don't.
Okay. Now, you were at a funeral that day. And when I say that day, I'm talking about December the 6th. This would have been the day that Jessica Chambers was burned.
Right.
You went to a funeral at 2 o'clock that day?
Right.
Antioch Baptist Church, I believe, right?
Right.
And then you left there. You also went to the burial. Was that?
I did.
You did? And you went to the repast, which was next to the church.
Right.
Is that, you recall that?
Right.
Now, your grandchildren were with you this entire time?
They were.
And that funeral was at 2 o'clock.
Right.
Now, your grandchildren, how old are they?
How old are they now?
Well, how old were they then? Thank you.
Between the age of 1.5 and 5.
Okay. Boys or girls?
A boy and a girl.
Okay. Which one is the youngest?
The little girl.
Okay. So the little girl was with you, and the 5-year-old boy was with you.
They were.
Okay. Did you all leave from your home that morning?
Going to, did we leave together?
Yes.
Me and the kid? Yes.
Okay. So your grandchildren were with you this entire day.
Right.
When you left home, what time did you leave home that day?
I don't remember.
Okay. But the funeral was at 2.
Right.
Your grandchildren were with you then.
Right.
Were your grandchildren riding in the front seat of the car at all times?
I can't remember, but no, they probably was in the car seat on the way to the funeral.
Okay, so and that would have been, I'm assuming the youngest.
Right.
The 1.5-year-old.
Right.
She was in the car seat when you left home going to the funeral.
Right.
When you left the funeral going to the burial, was she in the car seat as well?
Probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then when you went to the repast, was she still in the seat?
Probably, yes.
What about when you left the repast and went home to get the coats? Was she in the car seat then?
I didn't have very far to go, no. I put her in the front.
Okay, so then you put her in the front seat,
I did.
and your grandson was in the front seat as well.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you went to, still with your grandchildren, you went to your mother's residence so the grandchildren could change.
After the funeral, after the funeral and the burial, that's where we went. We went there. Was not there alone,
Okay. But they changed at your mother's, right?
from my remembrance.
Okay. Then you left your mother's and you went to the residence of Michael Macmurray.
Yes.
And this was a second repast for the same funeral?
Yes.
Michael Macmurray is your cousin?
He is.
Now, what time did you arrive at Mr. Macmurray's?
I really don't know the exact time. I can't remember that far back.
Certainly.
I,
So, when you went to I'm going to just call him Mr. Macmurray.
Mm-hmm.
When you went there twice, did you not?
what you mean?
Okay, well, when you were meeting with the investigators, Mr. Rowlett and Mr. Meadows, you told them that you went to the residence of Michael Macmurray during the daylight hours,
Right.
okay? And then you left to go home to get coats.
Right.
And you just testified that when you left home, you were going to Michael Macmurray's house, so I'm assuming you were headed back to the repast. Did
When
I
I left
misunderstand
home
you?
with the coats, yes, I went back to the repast.
You went back to the repast, okay. So, And when you left home the second time, your grandchildren were sitting in the front seat.
Yes.
What time was that?
When I left home,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't even know what time I made it home. Whatever time I made it home, we wasn't in there long.
Let me ask this. Was it daylight outside or was it dark outside?
It was dark. It was getting dark. It was just begun to get dark, I believe. I can't quite remember. All I know was getting cooler that night.
Okay, so when you went home to get the coats and you left home, are you saying that it was starting to get dark or it was already dark?
Honestly, I don't remember. I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember.
Do you remember when we were talking, you indicated that when you left home and you saw this individual, it was just starting to get dark?
I remember telling you that.
Okay, so this was December, right?
Right.
And it starts to get dark pretty early in December. Can we agree to that? So it was probably 5-ish.
I object. You've asked this witness to speculate.
I'm
She's
just
already
not
said she
remembering
doesn't remember.
time.
All right, let's move on, councilors.
Well, Ms. Murray, you indicated on your testimony to Mr. Hale that it was dark outside.
Okay.
But you told me that it was just starting to get dark. I'm trying to clarify that. Which was it?
Honestly, I can tell you that I left the repast and I went home to get the coats. And when I left home, I went back to Micah. I did pick up someone. I mean, the timing, I can't be sure what time it was, what time I went home, what time I left. I cannot, but I can be sure that I did pick up someone and I dropped them off on 51.
Okay. But you don't know whether it was light or dark outside?
I do remember it was getting dark. It was I believe it was dark, counter dark.
It was counter dark when you picked this individual up. Okay.
I'm just not remembering that night.
Now, when you were testifying to Mr. Hale, you indicated that you didn't see any emergency lights when you were headed home.
No, I did.
Okay. Did you look for any?
No, I did.
Okay. Could it be that you don't remember seeing any?
It could be so, but if I seen an emergency light, I think I can remember that.
Okay. So if you saw an emergency light, you would have remembered that.
I believe I would have.
Okay. And likewise, when you left home and you picked up this individual and you went back up toward 51, you didn't see any emergency lights then either, did you?
No, I did.
Okay. Now, when you picked up these coats, how long were you at home?
I wasn't there long. I wasn't even there 10 minutes.
You weren't there 10 minutes. Did your grandchildren go into the house with you?
I took them inside.
So
I
you
never
went-
leave them in the car.
Sorry.
I took them inside with me.
Got the coats, immediately came back out to the car, got in your car, and left, headed back to Mr. Macmurray's home again.
Right.
And then as you were heading back, that's when you noticed this individual
Right.
walking.
That's right.
And you thought the individual was flagging you down.
I thought so.
What
Maybe.
made you think this individual was trying to flag you down? Did they do something?
He might have raised his hand up. I can't remember, but I know he probably was trying to stop me, the reason I stopped.
Okay. And you talked about a Randrell, am I pronouncing that correctly?
His name is Randre.
Randre. You
Randre.
thought it was Randre.
I thought it could have been him.
You thought it could have been him.
Right.
And who was Randre to you?
My cousin.
Okay. And you thought you were picking up Randre.
I stopped for Randre.
But-
I didn't think I was picking up Randre. I did stop because I thought the person could have been Randre.
Okay. But the person wasn't Randre, was
No, he wasn't.
it? And you didn't recognize the person, did you?
No.
Now, the person came to your window. Is that correct?
Yes.
And they asked you where you were going.
Right. Yes. They didn't ask me where I was going. He asked me which way were I going.
Okay.
I told him I was going to Michael's Macmurray house, my cousin Repast.
Okay. Why did you say Michael Macmurray's house if you didn't know this
Because
individual?
if he knew Michael, I brought Michael's name up, maybe he knew Michael. Maybe that would have gave him a direction in which way I was going.
Okay, but now you were headed back toward 51.
Right.
Does that, how many directions can you go on that road?
You can go two directions on 51.
Because it actually splits up before it goes down by 51, doesn't it? Well, when you're leaving your home and you're on Main Street, 74 Main Street,
Right.
when you approach that hill, you can go left or right.
True.
Okay. Did you encounter this individual before that split?
Did I?
When you first saw this individual, when you said this individual flagged you down, was it before you get to the split?
No. Yes, it was before that.
Okay. And you all had a conversation
The
before
only
this?
conversation we had was before he got in the car. That's the conversation we had. We didn't have a long conversation.
That conversation was where you going?
And he told me he was going to check on his son.
Okay.
He had heard his aunt's house had caught a fire.
So this individual alleges to have told you that his aunt's house had caught on fire.
He heard his aunt's house had caught a fire.
And he was trying to get there.
He was trying to get there to check on her.
Okay.
Make sure they was okay.
Now, here, the person that you're saying is the aunt, that was Julia Chambers?
Right.
No relation to Jessica Chambers.
I
You
don't
don't
know
know.
Jessica Chambers, but no.
Okay. But this individual indicated that he had heard there was a fire earlier and he was trying to get there.
Yes.
And you knew Miss Chambers,
I did.
and you knew her how?
She was my hairdresser from years ago.
Okay. And how long has it been since Miss Chambers did your hair?
It been years ago, about 20, I'd say about 20-some years.
So at the time, you knew Miss Chambers from her doing your hair 20 years ago.
Right.
And this would have been back in 2014.
2014.
Well, this happened in 2014,
Right.
December 6th.
Right.
So 20 years now or 20 years then?
I knew Julia from 20 years before then.
But she hadn't done your hair in about 20 years.
No, she haven't.
Okay. And I think you testified that the individual wanted to ride up to the end of the road.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. And what did you perceive that to mean?
Excuse me?
What did you think he meant by that?
Well, Julia didn't, I knew where Julia stayed at, and so he told me he was going to check on his aunt, Julia, then I knew it wasn't too far where he wanted to go.
Okay. So, person got in your vehicle.
Right,
This person that you didn't recognize, he got in the vehicle with your 1-year-old and with your 5-year-old and with you.
right,
And you all proceeded up toward Highway 51.
yes.
No conversation along the way.
No, that I can remember.
And I believe you indicated that he may have said, "Do I owe you anything?"
Right, he did.
Did you charge him?
Did I charge him?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Now, did he get out at the intersection of 51 and Main at that stop sign?
No, he didn't. I drove up just a little bit from that stop sign, and that's
Okay.
where I let him out at.
Okay, so how did you know where to stop? Did he tell you where to stop, or did you just stop?
He did.
Okay, so he did say something else. I guess that would have been some sign to you to stop the vehicle because he wanted
Right,
to get out
I asked
here.
him where about it, and he said, he'll be fine.
Okay. And on this trip, you didn't see any emergency vehicles either.
No.
Now, isn't it true that you told the investigators from the district attorney's office that you told your mother and sister about this a week later?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And then about a month later, you confronted your mother because she was talking about it.
I didn't know where it came. I confronted her because I thought maybe it got out through her.
Okay. Because you had only told two people about this, your sister and your mother,
From
correct?
my remembrance.
Okay. And why did you think it didn't come from your sister?
I just assumed my mother because I know how my mother speaks.
When did you find out about Miss Chambers' death?
When did I find out about it?
Yes, ma'am.
It maybe a couple of days after the repast,
And
after the funeral.
how did you find out?
Social media.
Social media? And when you say social media, Twitter,
Facebook.
So you were on Facebook
Yes.
and someone conveyed that information to you?
No, it was on Facebook. Pray for Jessica Chambers and family.
Okay. So you saw a notice on Facebook that
Right,
about her death.
right.
Did you continue to follow this story on Facebook?
No, I mean, I'm not on Facebook like that.
Okay. Now you've lived here all of your life, correct?
Right.
And did you hear anything after that about this?
What you mean?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you know Jerry King?
No,
Do you know Mary Tyner?
no.
Do you know where 124 Main Street is?
Yes.
Where is that in relation to 74 Main Street?
That's down the street from me.
Okay. A couple hours down from where you're living, right?
Right.
Ms. Flowers, where have you been for the last 4 years?
What do you mean, where have I been?
You've not felt compelled to tell this story to anyone prior to now. Why now?
I was questioned now.
Have you been threatened?
No,
Has anyone promised you anything for your testimony?
no,
Have you been threatened with prosecution?
no.
You have two sons that are incarcerated. Is that true?
That is not true.
Okay. You have one son that's been incarcerated?
Yes.
Have you been threatened anything in regard to, have you been promised anything in regard to your son?
No, I haven't.
Now, at one point, wasn't there even an award or reward related to this case?
To the Chambers case?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
You didn't know about that?
And no, I didn't.
You don't know Quentin Tellis personally, do you?
No, I don't.
How's the court's indulgence?
You want some water? Would you want some water?
Yes, please.
Just a moment, Mr. Pearson. We're getting us some water.
Certainly, Your Honor.
All right.
Ms. Flowers, finally, you went back to Michael Macmurray's Repast that night, and I believe you indicated that you were there for 3 hours or so.
I'm not sure how long I was there. I said 3 hours, maybe
Okay.
3 hours or a little bit more.
Roughly
Yes.
3 hours.
Right,
When you left there, did you come back home?
I did.
Are you still living at 74 Main
No, I'm
Street?
not.
You still live here in Courtland?
Yes.
Attending the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Sherry, I apologize. I was not aware of your son's situation when we spoke. Just learned about it today. You never tried to collect any reward on this case, did you?
No, I haven't.
In fact, you didn't know who you picked up.
No, I didn't.
Darius Smith is a law enforcement officer here that has a semi-family connection to you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And we didn't know where you were, and he
Right.
came and found you.
Right,
And he informed you that we needed to speak to you.
he did.
Now, truth be known, you don't really want to get involved in this, do you?
I do not.
When investigators interviewed you, did you tell them the truth of what happened that you remembered?
Yes,
Did you show them exactly where you picked up this individual?
yes, well, I thought, in between, yeah, yes,
And was that area in between your home and actually closer to the Courtland Fire Department?
yes,
And did you show them exactly where you dropped this person off?
yes,
Is that a short distance to Julia Chambers' home?
yes.
Last questions. Where did he tell you he needed to go?
He needed to go, he was checking on his aunt, because he heard, her house had caught a fire.
And so Miss Julia's house had already caught on fire, based on what he said.
Based on what he said.
And you never saw any emergency lights.
No,
There's been testimony in this trial that the fire department left her house at 7:30. So would you agree it was after that fire?
left,
Objection, Your Honor. That's speculation. She's testified that she doesn't remember the time.
Restate your question, please.
He told you he was going to check on her house that caught on fire, correct?
right,
Would it make sense that that fire already happened?
yes,
And you never saw lights?
no.
Your Honor, I have no further question. I would ask that Ms. Flowers be released to go to work.
Ms. Flowers, you're found excused. You may leave and go about your business, or you may remain in the courtroom. All right, we'll take our afternoon recess. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll put you in recess for 10 or 15 minutes, then we'll reconvene. Court will remain in order until the jury is excused.